Do you want to share the link with us so we can?
I will tweet it out in just a second.
Okay.
I think we're good for
And
live.
where do you want me to talk?
I will
this?
make what?
You have a mic.
Oh, you haven't. No,
You
that's
want
the
me to
mic
type
you
there?
need.
Okay.
Yes. And then I'll track you with this, but
Okay.
this should not be picking up the sound. Only that one should be.
Let me just do.
Go ahead.
Okay. All right. You want to sort of maybe I'll check to make sure it's
To make sure you're plugged in.
share my screen via the YouTube. Did I need to do anything, Andrew, to set that up
What?
to be able to share my screen via the YouTube channel?
No, I've already got Julia's. As long when you plug in the HDMI, it captures it.
Sweet.
Nice. Excellent. Excellent. I think we're ready to go.
Yeah.
All right. All right. Awesome. Awesome. Thank you all so much for coming here today. Welcome to our May meeting of the Salt Lake R user group. Sorry. So today, Mark and I are splitting the time, and we are going to be talking about and connecting databases to R, how to get data that is somewhere in some database into R so that you can deal with it and process it. Before we get started, I guess I'll just do a couple announcements. So most of you probably are aware of the meetup page where you can get information and keep up to date with what's going on. Our June meeting is scheduled, and Dr. Miriam Meyer from the Computer Science Department here at the University of Utah is going to be speaking, and she'll be talking about designing effective data visualization. So I think that's going to be a really exciting talk. I'm really excited that she's coming to speak. It's a similar talk to what she's giving at OpenBizConf in France this month, I believe. So she's going to be. It's actually, we're really lucky that she's going to be coming and sharing that with us. So that'll be something that I know overlaps a lot with the kind of work that I do. So that'll be great to have her talk. If you are interested in giving one of these sort of 1-hour presentations about something related to R, how you use it, a tutorial, absolutely get in touch with me or one of the other organizers. We would love to have people from our community share about how you use R, or a tutorial at some different level about how to get started with something. So absolutely be in touch. We have a GitHub repo that is linked from the Meetup site, so if you want to put some idea there, absolutely please do that. Any other announcements you think before we get started? No? All right, then let's get started. So the topic of today's talk is interfacing with databases from R. So my name is Julia Silge, and Mark Nielsen is going to be taking the second half of our presentations today. You can find me here online. I am a data scientist at Stack Overflow. You can find me there on Twitter. So who here has heard of Stack Overflow? All right, good. If no one laughs, that means like I'm in the wrong room, giving the wrong presentation to the wrong people, and it's going to be bad. I'm in for a bad time, right? If no one laughs. So I'm actually the only data scientist at Stack Overflow. Stack Overflow, the whole company is about 250 people. Technical staff, which is web developers, SRE, designers, data, is about 60 to 70. The data team is about 4. And on the data team, we work on 2 sort of categories of questions. And one category is, these certainly are interrelated, but it's helpful sometimes to think about them this way. So one category is related to the user experience on Stack Overflow. So if someone needs to ask a question, how can we make that process go better? How can we help them do a better job of asking a well-formed question? if someone is searching for content, how can we make that work better? Or how can we suggest relevant content to someone? How can we make Stack Overflow more friendly and more inclusive? How can we use data to meet all these goals that we have for the user experience? The other category of questions that we work on is related to how Stack Overflow has our revenue sources, how we make money. So whether that's ads, whether that's our job platform, whether that's our newly launched Stack Overflow for teams, like Stack Overflow as software as a service for businesses. Like, how do we understand what makes our clients have good experiences with us? So can we use statistical analysis, modeling, machine learning to address all these kinds of questions? So these are the kinds of things that I work on at Stack Overflow. As you can imagine, I have to be able to access the data to do that. I am largely an R developer. I pretty much do all of the statistical analysis and the machine learning and the modeling that I do in R. But where is the data? Where is the data that I need to analyze? Is someone just gonna like send me a CSV of data, or like what? Like how am I actually going to get the data? The ecosystem in R around database access, I am very happy to be able to share with you all, has matured and flourished amazingly in the past several years, so that addressing these issues, fixing, being able to easily access your data has never been easier than it is today in R, and we're going to walk through how you can go about doing that. So this is from a website at RStudio, db.rstudio.com, databases, and it's about how it has links about how to access various kinds of databases that are out there, and whether there's dplyr support for them, whether there's a separate R package and whatnot. And so what I am going to do, so at Stack Overflow is largely was founded long ago, 10 years ago, by two people who were very Windows-centric type people. So all of our data is in Microsoft SQL Server. So all of our data is in production or is in SQL Server. That's where all of our data lives. So right now, I'm going to do a quick demo to show you just what my workflow looks like on a day-to-day basis. So let's say I am here in R, and let me just show you kind of what my workflow looks like. So here I'm going to load a package called SQL Stacker. So this is an internal package that I'll talk about a little bit more in a little bit, just a smidge later. But it's an internal package that that the data team at Stack Overflow has written. And then I'm going to load tidyverse as well. So what the SQL Stacker package does is it has basically been a nice layer between everything that we need to connect to databases, so that when I actually go and do my work, it's very fluent and it's very fast for me to be able to do things. So you can actually just write SQL. So this is oh yeah, okay, so let me come up here and connect to the VPN. So I have to connect to a VPN, and I have set up my my authentication credentials. So let me try it again. Okay, so now we can say I queried the database, and then I got back the top 50 ID of people who have, the top 50 from people who have their ID, their reputation, and their display name from the users table. So this, what I'm showing you today is all public data. So I'm not going to show you anything. I'm not going to show you anything exciting or private here, but this is all just public data here. So these were some of the first, just some of the like top things from the users table. So so you can write a query like that, but notice when I did this, this is still remote. I haven't done anything, I haven't brought anything into memory in R yet. I just said, hey, what's out there in the users table? And if I say collect equals true like this, Now I have it here in my environment. I have now stored it, and now it's in R as a data frame where I have ID, reputation, and display name. So here's examples with writing SQL. I can do a more complicated SQL statement here, and if I can collect that. So this is on a post table. So this is questions. So post type ID means questions. This is things that haven't been deleted. And this is year. So now I have for every year how many questions have been asked on Stack Overflow, and now I can make a little graph here where I'm saying, okay, for every year, how many questions have been asked on Stack Overflow? So this is 2018. We're, a quarter of the way through the year, and this is how many have been asked so far. So you can write SQL, but also since we've written this package such that with dplyr support, you don't have to write SQL. You can actually write dplyr. So you can write dplyr to query your table. So the post table is a table that has questions and answers in it. So I can say, okay, group by year, filter, I'm doing the same thing again, filter things that have not been deleted, so things that have not been deleted by people, and just the questions, and then summarize posts of how many I have in each group, and then collect that here. So I can run that as well, and I get the same thing back again. So I don't have to write SQL. If I've connected to a database using these R packages that have dplyr support, I can write SQL, and if you have people in your organization that want to do that, you can. Or if you're somebody like, I'm actually much better at writing dplyr than I am at writing SQL, so I can do my whole workflow in writing in just writing dplyr. And we have, at most, I've shown you like a users table, a post table. We have lots of various tables in our various databases. So this is a table that has the tags, all the tags in Stack Overflow, and like how many questions have been asked in them. And we have other tables and databases for traffic, like how many questions have different hits, chat, databases and tables for jobs, different ones for teams, and so forth. So the reason I wanted to show you this is to show you what does it look like for me in my day-to-day work. This is super motivating for me. What I'm about to show you is how to get here. How can we get to here? But being able to work like this is extremely motivating. I can quickly iterate on queries. I can query the remote database, like get back something like this. So for example, I did Stack Overflow tags, but let's say I want to do filter, what was it called, count? Yeah, so I want to say filter count is greater than, I only want to see things that have more than that many questions. And I'll see, oh look, it is only these big guys, right? And I'm able to very quickly iterate on my queries and get back things until I find what do I need to do. Then I can bring that into memory and then move on with whatever I need to do in R. It is a beautiful workflow that works so well. So let's go back and talk about what we need to do. What made that possible? What made that workflow that I just did possible? So it is a lot, I'll be honest, it's a lot of layers. It's a lot of layers, but it's worth it to get it working at the end. So first, let's talk about the DBI package. The DBI package is it's a package that exists under the R DBI ecosystem. You can install it from CRAN. It's something that is very standardized, but a lot of effort has been put into it from, for example, the R Foundation recently to get it really solid and really robust. So what it does is it is what links between R and the database management system. So you need DBI is the thing that's going to link between R and whatever on your computer is managing the database. So it's the thing that does the link there. So it connects and disconnects. it creates and executes the statement, and then it does a lot of really important things like error exception handling. And also, for example, at my organization, we have really excellent SREs and data engineers, and it's really important to them that I, as a data scientist who maybe they don't trust, so much with their precious data. Like I am only allowed to have transactions at a certain level, and this handles that correctly. So I am not allowed to break any databases, and this all handles that extremely well. So the DBI package is one of the layers in this stack that talks to R and the database management system. The other package that I want to talk about is the ODBC package. So the ODBC package allows R to talk to this set of drivers, the Open Database Connectivity drivers. So these are a set of standardized drivers that will connect to many kinds of databases and your operating system. So it includes SQL Server, which is what I use in my daily life, my daily work life. The examples are in the package are mostly with SQLite. It also has connections to things like Oracle, these other things that are listed here. What I'm about to say that is so important and is going to make your life so nice is that it builds on this C++ library. And that's all. That's all. And it's all inside the package. It does not have an RJava dependency or a Java dependency. There are no, the installation headaches here are minimal. It works really, really, really well. If you're on Windows, the ODBC drivers are probably already installed. If you are, I think I have this on a slide a little bit later, but if you're on Mac or Linux, they are not hard to install. You use Brew or you use apt-get, and you can install them pretty easily as well. So ODBC is only a few years old. I think maybe it's been on CRAN maybe a year and a half, 2 years. But what ODBC offers that is a vast improvement over what we had before is how reliable it is, how easy to install it is. Dependencies that it has are only C++, and it is well managed, it's well tested, and also is much faster. So using SQL Server, we switched from an R package that managed SQL Server connection that had an RJava dependency to ODBC, and the querying and bringing data into memory is about 40% faster than it was when we used the RJava dependency. So the ODBC package for accessing ODBC drivers is an excellent option. All right, so if you want to do this, what do you need to do? What do you need to do? So the first thing you need to do is you need to get these drivers. You need to get these drivers on your local machine. So your DBA, your IT department, you have data somewhere in a database, and you, the data scientist, the data analyst, you need to get to that data with R. The first thing you need to do is you need to install the drivers. So this is not to do anything with R. This is to do with your operating system and your local computer. So Windows usually has these drivers already with them. I largely use Mac for most of my work, and so I use Homebrew. And Homebrew, first you need to, it's 2 steps. It's 2 things that you need to install here. These instructions are in the ODBC README. So the ODBC README tells you how to install it. And if you're a Linux user, you can install it with yum or apt-get. So you can get these things installed pretty easily. If you are an RStudio customer, like you give RStudio money for something, you can actually get professional ODBC drivers that are better in some way. I think they're faster. I don't know. I'm not entirely clear on what's up with the professional drivers, but yeah, so first you need drivers. So drivers are the thing that connect your operating system to the database. The next thing you need to do is you need to create a connection. You need to create a connection. So this is something that is going to take the DBI package and the ODBC package, and it will connect using the ODBC driver, and it will do the whole thing so that R can see the database that you're looking for. So the function call will look something like this. So you're creating a connection that looks something like this. So the DBI package is the one that's saying to R, okay, R, I need to connect to a database somewhere, and we say, okay, what kind of connection are we going to make? What is the name of the driver? This is what it looks like usually on a Mac. And then these are things that have been defined elsewhere, like what's the database, what's the user pass name if you need to authenticate to the database, and what's the name of the server, where the database is, and all this kind of thing. So we make some kind of a connection there. Once you have a connection, you create a source, and the source is a data source. I use the dbplyr package to create a source DBI object, and then we can so you take the connection, you create a source object, and then this source object, if you type out src in the console, it'll tell you all the tables that are available in that database. It will just list them all out for you and tell you all the tables that are there. So this is how you start from where are you, and then how do you get to connect there. Whoops. It can be a hassle to manage authentication. And how are you going to manage it securely? And what if you have multiple R users in your organization? You sure don't want to be checking these things into Git or anything like that, right? That would be silly. That would be dumb. We don't want to do that. One option that is available for managing authentication is the keyring package. So this is mainly, or it's in RLib. It's oh gosh, I'm blanking. Henrik, help me. Henrik. Yes, Henrik's last name is.
I think it's Winstead.
No. Ah, my gosh. Anyway, I'm blanking on Henrik's last name. Anyway, this is in the RLib organization. So what the keyring package does is that it accesses the secure operating system password stores on for Mac, Windows, and Linux. So you know how your operating system will store passwords for you, and you go and it'll be like, hey, are you sure you want to give this app your password? And then you type in like the password that you log in with, and you say yes. Okay, it allows you to do that for things from within R and to access passwords that you have stored in that keyring from within R. It also has really nice dependencies that are all just packaged together. It's easy to install. We've had good luck installing it on Windows and on Mac, so that it has worked well for multiple kinds of users. So you can set up a system for people to access the database using the keyring package in this way. So we have all these different pieces, and what we've decided to do in our organization is to put it all together in a package so that it's easier for people to manage all of this. So I am going to show you a little bit like of what it looks like. So this is our, I'll just show you, like this is our internal GitHub Enterprise at Stack Overflow organization. And let me just show you a few things about what it looks like. So we have a README here for people to be able to get started with it. And here in the R part, so first we have, this is what making connections looks like. So we have a function like this. So we're saying, okay, here, okay, to create a connection. This one is the old one. Here, okay, here's the new one. Here we go. So we're saying if we detect whether it's on Windows or not, and we create a connection in this way. So we create a connection, and then we have. Oops. There we go. You know, I can do that in a second. And then we have sources here. No, sorry, this is too small now. Okay, and then in the sources, we create all these different kinds of sources. We say here are the great comments about temporary, I hope, which of course is not temporary, it's 2 years. So we say like, okay, here are all these different kinds of sources that we're connecting to. And then, where's my mouse? Here we go. And then the databases, where we say, okay, let's say, so our careers database is this kind of source and this database. Our Stack Overflow is this kind of source and this kind of database, and so forth. And then we manage authentication in here as well. I think it was up here where we said, where we say, okay, here, we set the credentials here, and then we save that down there below. So that's just a little bit of like a top level view of like making a package that just sets these functions up to make it easier to connect in a fluent way, so you're not managing all that all the time. And so as I sum up and I hand it over to Mark, I wanted to just point out a few resources. If you are interested in setting up this kind of workflow, because the package that I just showed you is not open source. It is on our internal GitHub Enterprise behind a firewall and all that good stuff. So the first one is db.rstudio.com. They have a ton of resources and best practices for how to connect to databases from R. And we have found it really useful in setting things up for our own package. And how to go about doing this and how to get this set up. They have information on their own commercial products, but then also just how to go about doing this using just for R in general, just for open source projects as well. Another is this Implier package, which is a package. It's almost exactly what I just showed you for our internal databases, but for Apache Impala. And it is a really great example of how to set something like this up for any database. And the people who built it, mainly involving Ian here, did a really excellent job and followed best practices. So if you wanted to do this for any given database, this would be a really great package to look at for how to get started. Ian gave a talk at USAR this past year of like things they learned during the process of building this package for Apache Impala, and it is an excellent talk. I learned a lot about it from it and was like, oh my goodness, yes, I need to change X and Y in our internal package from this talk. It was an excellent talk on lessons learned from building a package for accessing data in this way. So this is a great resource. Another one that I want to point you to is this blog post by Bob Rudis. So Bob is a an InfoSec data scientist, and he has a recent blog post just from last month about how to connect to Amazon Athena and Apache Drill. So these are more examples of more databases that he has connected using this same stack that I talked about, ODBC and dplyr, and how to go about doing that. So these are all excellent resources for how to get started on if you are interested in doing this for yourself. And with that, I'm going to wrap up. I want to say thank you to these three coworkers of mine, these are the three data engineers that are on the data team with me, whose work is really important to me being able to do any of this. And with that, I will say thank you. Does anybody have any questions while we get switched out? Yes.
So, what can you tell me about RODBC and why? You didn't even mention that.
I can mention that. So RODBC is the older package, and
The
I
older
like.
package, like the previous version of ODBC, or just and
I believe it is it actually managed by a different group.
It's managed by different people.
It has different syntax than the kind of the DBI core. Yeah, and so like with the DBI, you're going to use like DB get query to pull your data. With our ODBC, you're going to be using like SQL query, and I'm putting this microphone on.
It does not play as well with DBI.
Yeah.
The package DBI, and DBI has had a lot of work put into it to make it work really well. So that would be a reason I would.
At last year's our conference, there was also a comparison to show that our ODBC was much slower than ODBC. So
okay, so that's
lots of reasons you just don't want to use
Yeah.
our ODBC.
Yeah, and I'll be honest, I've been using RODBC up till now, until I was introduced in prep for this to the ODBC package, and it is so much better.
It really
It
is.
is so much better.
It really is.
I had that question too with RStudio, and RStudio manages and creates ODBC, right?
Yeah, so it's an open source package, but some people employed by RStudio are the maintainers of ODBC. Yes.
Because we just installed Connect, and they said they're not gonna support anything but ODBC package.
Okay, so you're a customer of RStudio, and they only support the ODBC package, basically? Okay, all right. Okay, so there's been a lot of discussion about ODBC and how awesome it is. I remember like all these discussions we've been having. I'm like, why isn't it so awesome? So Intermountain for me, right? So Intermountain, we have an Oracle database. The ODBC setup for Oracle databases is a little bit different, and we've got LDAP on top of that, and so the configuration, I haven't figured it out yet. So I am using JDBC because it is so much easier to just have the jar file and you point to the jar file and you're good to go, right? It does depend on Java, right? But in general, like as Hadley Wickham puts it, generally any R package that uses Java is a pain to set up. So that's why he would say, hey, let's use ODBC versus JDBC. And I put that as a negative, that's a positive for ODBC. Should be a negative over here. So ODBC is definitely Windows friendly by far, and the packages that are on Linux, I just installed it this past few weeks, was really easy. The Unix ODBC and the drivers for Postgres were pretty straightforward there. In my experience, ODBC is more reliable. Every once in a while, I have to figure out how to tweak the Java settings to be able to even pull the data because the heap size isn't large enough. And anyway, there's lots of things you need to tweak. So anyway, we'll kind of skip that. So we're gonna make this demo a choose your own adventure. How many are Oracle users? Okay, just a couple. I guess maybe I should have asked that one. I didn't prep a demo. If you have questions, you can ask me. I'm working on the very early stages of creating a package for all of Intermountain to integrate R with database seamlessly. So SQL Server, there's a lot. Postgres? Other databases? Okay. MySQL, okay, cool. Alright, so based on the audience, we're gonna go Windows with SQL Server. Are you guys okay with that? To walk through, and if we have some time, maybe we can look at the Linux with Postgres. We'll pull this up. So I have a neighbor that was so nice. He actually hosts a database at his house, and he set up this environment for me with SQL Server, and I'll just walk you through a couple of different ways to set things up. You can set up ODBC with or without DSN definition. You can also set up the JDBC driver, so I'll walk through those examples. So, like we said, the ODBC on Windows setup is really nice because, especially for SQL Server, because the drivers are already installed. If you're gonna try and connect Oracle or some of the other databases, you might have to go to their web page and download the specific drivers, the ODBC drivers, and install those on your machine. Oracle has one additional step where you have to set up the TSA or TS names .aura file, or if you have LDAP like we do at Intermountain, you set up the LDAP.aura, and then there's one additional configuration file you can set up. But for here, we'll minimize this for SQL Server. I'm just gonna search here. I can never find it, so I just search ODBC, and to set up your driver and your DSN, find the ODBC data source administrator. 64-bit or 32-bit. Most everything's going to be 64-bit nowadays, but some databases are still 32-bit. You probably have to set up in a different data source administrator. I have added one here, you can see already, but if you come to here, you want to create a new DSN. I'm going to click Add, select the driver that you want. If you've installed Oracle or Postgres, those different drivers, they should show up here. Click Finish. So this is where you're going to kind of define, okay, where's the server located? I'm going to give it a name. Let's call it SQL 2, so it's not the same as the other one. In this example, I'm on the actual machine that's hosting SQL Server. So I'm just going to do localhost here, right? So this is where you would put the server location IP address, right? Okay, and I'm going to hit next. I do want it to use Windows, integrated Windows authentication. That's great. Then you don't have to type your password in, right? It'll just get it automatically. All right, and I'm going to change the default database to ML here. Okay. And I'm going to hit finish. All right, so it'll bring up this little window. I always test to make sure, hey, awesome. Test completed successfully. We're connected, right? So the nice thing about setting up this way, if you set up a package, you can probably define all of these things within your R script, right? The nice thing about doing it this way is when I load the ODBC library, you can see I'm referencing DBI and I want to connect to SQL, so that's my DSN, using the ODBC driver. Right? Awesome. We're connected. You can see I've loaded the Iris, the famous Iris data, right? into this database. Okay, if you don't want to do that setup with the DSN, the other way you can do it without having to type your password in, right? So Windows to SQL Server, you can add this trusted connection equals yes. And then you see I'm telling it, okay, let's use this driver, which I think, yep, see that's the one on the list. When you click add, it has that name of the driver there. The server, I guess I could put localhost here, but dbdev is the name of this machine. Database name, trust connection, yes, and I probably don't need to put the port here. I don't know. Do I?
I don't know. I don't either.
Okay.
It's on all mine.
Sometimes the drivers, if they're, I mean, this is the default location, the default port. So I always specify. Anybody know?
If
For
you're
sure.
not using the default, then you gotta change it, but I think it uses that by default.
Okay, cool. It'll use 1433 based on the driver. Okay. All right. So we are ready to query our dairy. So the db-get query is probably the function that you use to, send a query to the database and pull back data. You can see we can just use this. You can even just code your SQL syntax right here and just copy paste directly into your R script if you want to do it this way. This is kind of, you can kind of see the maturity level of where we're at Intermountain. But right now, what we do a lot of our development in SQL Developer that goes along with Oracle, right? Then we just either copy paste or pull in, read in the text file, the text SQL, and submit it using db-get query. So the other way to do this with the dbplyr package, right? You can define a table using the TBL, and I'll be honest, I've just been introduced to the dbplyr. Maybe this is it works for me. So now you can see we've got. Oh,
You can do library
I need to do. Did I load this one yet?
I think you missed the get pass.
Oh yeah, get pass. I'm okay without that one. Okay.
Oh, you need Magrittr.
Okay. So we'll do tidyverse. That'll get everything. Oh, I didn't install it. Are you kidding me? We'll just load dplyr there. Okay. All right. So you can see we've got our iris data in our summary table. So, okay. And then disconnecting from the server. Okay. So our JDBC setup, the steps for our JDBC, of course, you've got to install Java on your machine, right? I've added the link here. This code is going to be posted on GitHub, so and probably your slides too. We'll post those up there so you guys can get started. So maybe walking through this code would be a great beginning point, and then going more and digging into those other packages, Implyr,
Yeah.
and
That's a
stuff
great
like
one.
that. So I have already installed Java, right? I need to go to I'm gonna just navigate to, whoops. I'm gonna pull this up in a browser. If it's gonna let me do this. Okay, I need to pull up Firefox. Bad. I messed up the security settings. Okay. This is this actually is a great resource specifically for SQL Server. It'll walk you through the different ways to set up your drivers, and if you want to download the JDBC driver, you can go here. So I've downloaded the driver and installed it. So my connection, we'll make this a little bit bigger. I had to do one extra step with SQL Server by adding the path to the DLL, so it would be able to do the authentication piece automatically, so I have to retype my password in for Windows. So that's this first one here, and I'll load that. The GitPass library that I've used, there's similar function with RStudio. You can prompt for a password. I have migrated towards GitPass because you can have it embedded within an R Markdown document. When you knit that document, it'll prompt for your password, or you can run code in Emacs if you want to run your code in Emacs, and it'll prompt in Emacs, or however you're running it, it'll prompt based on what environment you're using. Where the RStudio get password function relies on RStudio, right? So, okay. Keyring would be the answer to that.
Keyring is, yeah. But
Which
it may be
I am
similar.
definitely
It may
gonna
be
go
similar, yeah, but
figure out keyring to see if I can add it, so I have to type my password every time. Okay. Oh, we're gonna go back to the multiple device. Okay. All right. So same DBI DB connect function. I've changed my driver to our JDBC, and then you pass. I forgot the specific name of this first argument, but it's telling you which driver it is, and then you need to point to where your jar file is located, right? So I've got it saved in C program files, and then the actual jar file. Okay. Then you need to figure out your JDBC connection string. You can probably ask your DBA for that. They'd probably be extremely familiar with that. Or, like I said, this this Microsoft page for SQL Server also had kind of a tutorial of, okay, here's what your JDBC string should look like, right? And if you leave out localhost, the port number, those things, the default is localhost at port 1433 for this JDBC driver. All right, so let's load that. So the beauty of using our JDBC or ODBC is you can use both of them with this DBI get query. Same table we were able to pull via the JDBC connection. So with that, I'm going to stop and say any questions that you guys have for either of us. Go ahead.
You said you used our ODBC before migrating to ODBC. Is there any changes, like when you're passing SQL queries, are there any changes in how it's structured? When I first started playing around with it, it seemed like they're different. Like sometimes some of them require using like an apostrophe or quotes for some queries, and others are different. I don't know if this is making sense. I just wondered if there's a massive change between the packages. If you had a
I
problem
haven't
switching.
noticed anything as far as the SQL string that you pass to the server. It should just be
SQL syntax is dependent
SQL
on
syntax. Yeah.
whatever database you have.
Yep.
Say that again.
The SQL syntax you use is dependent on the database.
Yeah.
So maybe so what I was saying is probably the difference
in the
in the
database.
database, not how our
Right.
Yeah.
So but your transition to ODBC was easy. easy, seamless, not
there's still some work to do, but from what I've done here and before in my work, there really isn't that big of a change. Just rather than using SQL query, I'm using DB get query function, which I like because it's the same whether you use ODBC or RJBC packages. So
thank you.
Yeah, we were using the what was it called? Our SQL Server as our how we managed our driver, and then we switched when ODBC was stable, and there were a number of things that changed in how we managed the connection, but the actual almost none of our scripts or our dashboards or anything, none of those things had to change. And that was because we were using the DB Flyer front end for almost everything. So it was like the back end changed, but
Thank you.
any other questions, Dan?
I think just a comment that what I found is when I got to a point where I'm actually loading many data sets in one analysis from the database, that I needed something better than copying and pasting my query into a single function call. So one solution is using your R Markdown notebook and then using a SQL chunk instead of an R chunk. And then another, if I'm getting beyond maybe 2 or 3 data sets that I'm loading, is to use usually in my R project folder I'll have a SQL folder where I have SQL scripts that I call with the read lines nested inside the DB get query. So I don't know if anybody runs into that where you're needing to do a lot of different SQL queries. That's a pretty smooth way of efficiently kind of switching between RStudio and whatever IDE you use for SQL, because maybe they have more expressive error messages than RStudio would if there's something going on with your SQL. And you can just edit that SQL in your SQL IDE that you use, but then still run it as long as it's saved. You can still run it from your R notebook.
super smart. Yeah.
Yeah, makes a lot of sense. All right, I think we are up with time. So next, right, it's 2 minutes to 1. Okay.
Yeah.
Next month, like you said,
Miriam Meyer.
Miriam Meyer,
Yeah.
okay, is going to be talking about visualization. So thank you so much, guys, for coming. And yeah, feel free to reach out to us if you want to present in the future. If not, we'll reach out to you. No, I'm just kidding. We'll find you. Anyway, thank you very much.